Okay, so there was a request for me to kind of show how I do my floral dashboard with the pockets, the floral shaped pockets on the My Foxy Fix board. And so I thought I'd go ahead and do kind of a quick tutorial on how I created those. There also was a request to show how I did the bookmarks. And so a lot of the things that I'll do for the dashboard will hold true in terms of the technique with the bookmark video, but I probably will do that one as it stands. Now, I designed both those items, the templates for them in Silhouette Studio. Silhouette Studio is a software by Silhouette America. And the basic edition, which will let you do just about everything, is free. And you can get it on a Mac, or you can get it for your, your desktop, whatever the case may be. I actually have, I think, Designer Edition. I'm not really sure which one I have, but it will hold true no matter what. And so if you go to silhouetteamerica.com/software, the first one that's up is this one right here, which is the basic edition. And then you'll see it's free, and you click download, and then you'll take it and install it and all of that. I already have mine open for time's sake because I have a lot of files already preloaded into my Silhouette Studio, and it takes a long time to boot up. As you can see, I have the business edition, which allows me to run more than one machine. So some of the icons that I have up here, you may not have in your basic edition, but that's okay. Usually this pops up unless you choose to not. I like this actually, but I will show you one thing you need to be aware of, something you might want to do ahead of time. If you have some graphics that you want to be able to use to make your items. I like I said, I have a lot already loaded in, but I do have, for today's sake, I'm going to pull in some papers I have. And so I'm actually going to pull this folder to my desktop. I'm not going to put it on my daughter's head. Anyway, so I'm going to go in here, and if you click, you've got a couple of options. Over here, this is kind of your view. So if you click here, it's going to give you your designing page view. Click here, this is going to give you your library. And then if you click here, this is going to take you to the Silhouette store, and you can purchase things here. There's free designs. This is a neat place to go and spend some time and look around and see. I know I've gotten some files for ring-bound planner dividers, and then you can add your own designs to them, and so that's really pretty awesome that somebody's already done that for you. They are not for any sort of commercial use, even if you pay for them, so just keep that in mind. They are for your personal use. But I'm going to go into my library, and I've created, library is where a lot of things will go initially. I created a file on Instagram. I'm full of grace plans. And I actually, for some time, have done printable as well as printed stickers on Etsy. I'm kind of taking a break from that right now. But if you'll see, I've added in my folders. So if I want to go in and add in those papers that I just pulled to my desktop, I'm going to go right here, and I'm going to right click. Now on a Mac, it's a 2-finger click. We'll bring up this, and I'm going to add a new folder underneath. And I think the ones I pulled were Bebop Papers. And then I always click over here to make sure I have it. And then what I do next is I'm going to make this a bit smaller. This is the easiest way I have found to bring in each item. You can bring in a paper at a time. This is how I prefer to do it. So I'm going to pull open my papers right here. You can see them. I'm going to make this a bit smaller so I can get both on my screen. Because I'm just going to be selecting all, which on a Mac I click here, scroll down, shift click will let you select all. Then you're going to drag them over to over the folder, and then you're just going to wait, and you'll see it's going to load those papers in. You can do this with clip art, you can do this with SVG files, you can do this with monogram files. Now, one thing that's awesome about Silhouette, and especially if you've you're used to the Cricut platform. I used Cricut back in the day when I had a lot of cartridges. And the thing I really didn't like is that I could not use just any font that's on my computer. I love fonts. I love using them to kind of create graphic elements. And so I wasn't too keen on the fact that I could not bring in my own fonts. So I'm going to get rid of this right now. I'm going to bring this back over. Make it big again. So if I'm working with these papers, I have this in my library just like this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over to my design page settings. Now, something that will differ is if you're actually going to use a silhouette, if you have a silhouette and you're going to use it to cut your file, you're going to want to, my default registration marks don't give me enough design space, and I'm not a huge fan of that. So I usually go in and will fix that. Now, I will say, if you're not planning to cut this with a silhouette machine, that is just fine. In fact, what I recommend doing at that point is you can remove your registration marks. The registration marks print, and that is what the optical reader on your silhouette machine looks for, and it's how it aligns it to cut it correctly. I always show my print border and my cut border. That helps me to make sure that any element I place on the page is within those parameters. I will show you real quick how I adjust what I adjust my registration marks to. I keep this is what comes up. It's not actually even the defaults. If I restore the defaults, it changes too many of these numbers. I like a length of 0.5. That's how long my registration marks are. I like this thickness, so I keep these the same, and then I change my insets to 5. One thing that I learned about my own printer, and yours may not have this same problem, is that my bottom margin will not print the entire registration mark if I set it to 0.5, because as you can see, here is the red is my cut line, the gray is my print line. My print line does not go all the way to as far to the edge as it does on the sides and the top border. So I found that when I was putting cut items further this way, it wouldn't actually print that, and it also would not print my registration marks. So I put that one to 0.625. I don't ever invert mine. I just keep it just like this. I tend to try to be a little superstitious with my silhouettes. I keep things very much the same. Because if I change one thing, it's liable to make it go crazy and not want to do anything for me. I also would recommend, as you're working, to save frequently. Right now, my Silhouette Studio is working perfect, but I've had it get to the point where it will crash a lot on me. And so having it saved, now it will do a recovered file, but oftentimes the recovered file does not have all your changes. So I save it to your hard drive. You can save it to your library. I've never done that. I like to have a hard copy on my hard drive. I usually just save it onto the desktop if I'm going to continue to work on it. And since we're going to do the dashboard pocket size, I just decided to choose dashboard pocket size. And so that's going to save my file for me. Now, I'm not a big fan right now of how this is going to allow me to work. I do have it set for my mat. I will say that when I start making my dashboard, it's going to be in landscape mode, and right now my page is in portrait mode. So if you go over here, this is going to be your design page settings, and this is a great spot to come because you can rotate your view, you can change how your layout is, you can change your paper size if you're going to switch to a 12 by 12, you can change what kind of cutting mat you use, or if you're not using a cutting mat at all, you can say none, and things like that. But I'm going to go ahead and do a 90-degree rotate. This doesn't, if you'll notice, my page is still the same. It just allows me to design in landscape, and I like that. So a couple of things that are always good to know in Silhouette Studio is there are a lot of icons. One of the things that I did when I was very first learning is I would sit down and just play around with stuff. And my best friend was this icon right here. That is the undo icon. And so if I did something and I didn't like what just happened, I could undo it. And so it's nice because it allows you to get creative and try things. And if it doesn't work out, you just undo it. Some of the ones we're going to be using today is the rounded rectangle tool. This is the rounded rectangle tool. We're also going to be using a square, the normal rectangle tool. We're going to be using the knife tool, and that will come in a bit. We also are going to be using probably the resize tool. That's the scale window. And we're going to be using this one, which is the modify window. And this is where we're going to go in and weld our pieces together. And the welding is what is going to also help you do your bookmarks. So I'm going to start with my rounded rectangle tool. Now I'm making this for a number 2 pocket size. Number 2 is the Foxy Fix number. It is a pocket size. And so I know that the size of that notebook is front cover would be 3.5 in width by 5.5 in height. Now, I'm not going to try to get it there first thing. That's just my own personal preference. If you want to sit and fiddle with it to get it exactly 3.5 by 5.5, go for it. Right now I have it at 4.373 and 3.038. So I'm going to go in and use that scale tool. So I'm going to open my scale tool. And one thing I want to make you aware of is if I keep my aspect locked, that means that the ratio of this number to this number will stay the same no matter how big I make it. I will not get to my precise measures of 3.5 by 5.5 inches. Now, I am working in inches. I am in the U.S., and so that is what I am most familiar with. So I apologize if you are on the metric system, which is pretty much anywhere else in the world. But the same would hold true, and yours would likely have centimeters here. So you will have to look up those centimeter conversions. So if I unlock my aspect ratio, it's going to allow me to put in my exact amount, changing this one to 3.5, but not changing this one. So as you can see, it went back and relocked it, and I did not want it locked. So I'm going to hit enter, and you'll notice it changed that to 3.5, but it didn't change this number right here. And I want this to be 5.5. And then I'm going to hit enter again. And then I always click apply. Usually I don't need to click apply in the scale window, but get in the habit of doing it. Because if you're doing something like an offset or an internal offset, if you do not click apply, it will go back to the default. And that's really frustrating when you've just made your nice little offset to make your white edges around stickers or whatever. I'm going to make sure this is within my print and cut lines. And I need 2 of these because this is a front cover and a back cover of a dashboard. So in order to get that, I'm going to use one of my shortcuts. You don't have to. You could do this and do copy, and then paste it over here next to it. You could go up here and say copy, do it next to it. I like my shortcuts, which to copy something on a Mac is Command C. That copies it, and Command V will paste it. So now I have 2. So I'm going to place them side by side, and I'm leaving about, I'm eyeballing this. I am not being perfect, but on mine, I had like a little gusset. You can put yours right next to each other. But with a notebook, I want a little bit of space right here. I don't want it to feel tight. I don't want it to push my notebook out. I want it to sit flush with the spine of my notebook. So if you'll notice though, they look pretty even, but they're not really. This tool I forgot to mention that we're going to use, I've selected both. So how I did that is I clicked here, I clicked Shift Select. Another option is if you want to select them all, you draw a box around it to select it all. Now, I'm going to go up here to this one that has like 3 rectangles with a line through it. This is your Align tool. And it's going to give you options. Aligning center will put these right over top of each other, and I don't want that to happen. Aligning horizontally, unfortunately, that's going to put them where I don't want them either. I want to align them in the middle. I want to basically say there's an imaginary line right here, and I want them aligned. It's not going to mess with this measure here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click right here and click Align Middle, and now they're even. I'm not going to move them again because I don't need to. Next, we're going to make the gusset right here. So I'm going to use this create a rectangle tool or draw a rectangle tool. I'm not using a rounded rectangle because that's not necessary. And I put my little crosshairs just a tiny bit inside. And then I'm going to draw my rectangle. Now this one, I'm not even going to go back in and change my measures. I'm just going to look at it and go, looks pretty good. And as you can see now, I've got, this is going to cut, this is going to cut, and this is going to cut. But what I don't want to have happen if I'm going to use my silhouette is I don't want it to cut this rectangle separate from this rectangle. So this is where the welding tool comes in. So I'm going to select all three shapes like this. So again, I click here and drag across. And you'll notice everything has a little gray box around it. That means it's all selected. And I'm going to go up to this one right here that has the gray box with the M. And it's the modify window. And there's lots of other things in here you can do. But what I want is to weld it. I want to take two shapes, or in this case, three shapes, and make one shape out of them. So I'm going to click weld. And as you can see, now I have one solid shape. Now comes the fun part. This is the part where you get to go in and add fun stuff to it, like your pretty papers or clip art or whatever the case may be. So I'm actually going to show you how you add the paper, and then I will also show you separately how you could add clip art, like pretty flowers or birds or whatever the case may be. So I have selected my rectangle that I've created, rectangle-ish shape. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over to my library. Notice, all I've done is click this. I haven't double clicked it because if I start double clicking, it's going to open up some other windows and points and adjustments, and I don't want that to happen. If that happens, undo. Undo. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to use these Bebop papers. And this one right here is just really speaking to me. I think these are super cute. These would be great in like a scrapbook for a teenager. I love the colors of them. I think the headphones are super cute, but I like that these aren't all about the headphones. They kind of go along with that. This paper pack itself, Bebop Papers, is from a shop on Etsy called Creative QB, which is Creative QUBE. I will link them in the description box below. So you can go find, she has beautiful stuff. I actually have a whole folder of her items. I'm going to use this one right here. Now, I'm not going to double click it. I'm not going to do anything. I'm literally going to click it once. And I'm going to wait for it to highlight. So once it's highlighted, I go back over to my drawing area and it's filled it with the pattern. Now, I like how this pattern is. But if I don't like how this pattern is, I can use this tool right here. And this is my fill tool. It's going to give me basic options. You're going to want advanced. And you're going to say, no, I don't want to have to do advanced. This is where you can get really creative with your papers. You can rotate them within your shape. So you can rotate it 90. You can flip it completely the other way, 270. You can flip it upside down. I like 0. But maybe say I want to really highlight those headphones on the front of my dashboard, which would be right here. And I like how this one is popping out right here. I can take and do what is called pan the pattern. And I can take and pan it over so that I get these headphones here. Now you'll notice this is where the seam in the paper went. Most graphic artists create it without as much seam. Now I don't mind it because it has kind of this grungy look to it anyway. That doesn't bother me. But if it did bother me, I could also zoom in on it. Scaling the pattern will change the look of it. So if instead of 100%, meaning this is exactly what the paper looks like, I could say 200%. And then, I like that, but I really want that set of headphones on the front of my booklet. There you go. Now, say I really don't like that. I've played around. I just want it 100% and right back where it was to begin with. Undo, 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 and undo one more. And there we are back where we started. Okay? Now, for the sake of the demonstration of creating floral pockets, I'm going to go in and actually select the paper that I used for mine. And this is from a kit that is from Frou Frou Craft, also on Etsy. Beautiful work. I love her stuff. And this is the print I used. So as you can see, I waited until it turned blue. I didn't click it double. I just clicked it once. And now I have my floral. Okay. And when I created this, I wanted, again, some of my flowers to be slightly positioned differently. So what I did was I went into, again, my fill pattern. My advanced option is still open. And I just played around with it and said, I don't really like that, how it is there. Let me try this. I think I ended up going with this one, but then now that I'm looking back on it, I don't like that really pretty pink rose right here is upside down. So I kind of like this. I like that it's got some big floral on the front and on the back. So here is what I'm going to do next. This is great just like it is, so I'm going to save it. I'm actually not going to do anything with it yet. I'm going to go here. I'm going to click copy, and this is where you're going to start making your pockets. So I'm actually going to click for another page. So it's going to give me Untitled 2. Now you'll notice it goes back to these silly defaults. So I need to change them really quick. But this gives you another opportunity to see how I do it. And then again, I'm going to rotate my creating area, my drawing area. So I'm going to go here, rotate it 90 so it's the exact same position. I'm also going to zoom in a tiny bit. Maybe not so much. I will say you've got your zoom in, zoom out, excuse me. The zoom in is great, but it's a little drastic. I don't necessarily love how it zooms in. So one of the things I found out about not too long ago, I've been using Silhouette Studio for about 2.5 years, and I've learned new stuff. Every time I get on here, or I'll see a video about something and I learn something new. But this is a drag over a shape to zoom. I don't have any shapes, but when I get a shape on there, I'm going to show you how to use this tool. So I'm actually going to do Command V, and I'm going to what you'll notice is I now have actually 2 that look the same. That's because I've taken that and moved it over to a new document, and this time I'm going to create my pockets. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you how I can zoom in on a shape. I can zoom in that far. I don't like that. That's a little too much. So we're going to go like that. Now, this is how I'm going to create my pockets. I love this floral right here, and I like how it naturally curves so that you could put it in this corner right here. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go into my Fill Pattern window again. I'm going to click on Advanced Options, and I'm going to pan my pattern. Not wanting me to, oh, haha, I got to click it. I'm going to pan my pattern. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and move my pattern so this floral right here creates this nice, basically like a pocket. And I actually want to move it just a tiny bit more because I don't want any of my pocket that I'm cutting to cross over this gusset. I don't want to have a pocket attached there. So I'm going to come so that this rose right here is like that, and then I get a pretty edge up here at the top. Now, this is where you need to have a little bit of a steady hand. But the nice thing with the florals is you don't have to be perfect. So this is where the knife tool comes in. And I'm going to click on, I'm basically creating this pocket right here. I'm going to click on my knife tool, and it's going to give me some options. I like freehand when I'm doing something like this. You can get a polygon. If you're wanting to cut a rectangle or a trapezoid or whatever the case may be, you can do a curve. This one I need freehand. Straight would give me literally straight cut lines, and I don't want that. I want it to be nice and organic like the flowers. So I'm going to take, and I'm going to start right here, and you'll see it's drawing a red line in there, and I just go slow, and I go around my flowers. See, I get a little like, ooh, my hand gets moving a little fast. And I just go around. So keep drawing. Basically drawing the line that's going to cut to be the edge of my pocket. And again, undo is your friend. So if you draw it and you accidentally, your hand goes spasmodic like mine has done before, guess what? You go undo and you start over. Now, I always want to make sure that my line right here has gone all the way outside of the shape, and here as well. And let me show you what that will look like. I'm going to actually zoom in right here. As you can see, I basically created a Grand Canyon along my thing. And if I really wanted to get technical, I could go in here and I could really start to fine-tune these. And the way that I would do that is I would go in and do some of the point selection and things like that. But I like kind of how it is. It looks organic. It's not going to look funny. And here's what I do next. I'm going to zoom out so you can see. This is my pocket right here. I basically have taken this shape and removed it from the paper. And so what I do is I click here, delete. I've got one pocket. Now you may say, okay, whoa, 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 I only have one pocket. What do I do for the other pocket? Well, I still have, sitting in my little virtual clipboard, I still have that dashboard with the floral. So I'm going to click Command V, and now I've got another one. Now for this pocket, I want it to look a little bit different. So I'm going to go back into my fill pattern, and I'm actually going to flip my paper. I'm going to flip it so I get a different shape on here. And sometimes I'm going to move it too. Like I'm going to move this one, and I'm going to find a bunch of flowers. Ooh, like this right here. I love that. See how I've got a nice little, that green leaf right there and this beautiful flower, and then the leaf. It's going to look different, and I like that about it. So I'm going to go through the same process again. I'm going to move this kind of over here to the side, and then I'm going to, again, click on my knife tool, and I'm actually going to, I'm not going to zoom in. I was thinking I might zoom in, but I changed my mind. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to get my knife tool like this, and I'm going to start here kind of off of the shape, and then I'm going to start cutting. And I'm going to choose for today's sake to not cut that whole leaf up that high, and I don't like that, so we're going to go. I don't like how my hand got a little funny there on the end. Still have my knife tool up, still have it on freehand, but I like this leaf right here. So, ugh, so I don't like that either, so we're going to go like that. Again, undo is your friend. And you just relax and get into the cut. And just know that nothing is set in stone until you hit that save key. So if you don't like it, undo it and then come back. And once you're happy with it, then you can come back and save it. And then it's yours and it's there for you. And this is the creative part of this, is creating something that's special and that's uniquely yours. It's possible, like this is going to look different than the one I created yesterday, actually, because it just is. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and get rid of my large shape. So now I have left pocket and right pocket. Now, if you're going to be cutting this with your, and I forgot to do exactly what I suggested you do, which is to save it. So I'm going to put floral dashboard pockets, because I don't want to lose it at this point. I don't want it to decide, oh, I'm going to crash on you. So at this point, if you're going to use your Silhouette Studio, you're going to come over here and you're going to make sure you like your cut settings. Now, when I always cut with the advanced settings by layer, because when I was creating my sticker sheets, I always had an exterior cut and an interior cut. I was printing this on 24 or 28 pound copy paper, and because I don't want it to be super thick in there, and so I just selected copy paper. It's one of the ones that's already in here. I didn't even adjust the settings, and I just have it being the red line. And if you'll come over here, you'll notice that I'm going to again click advanced, and it's got copy paper selected. So I would just go into each of these and click print and decide which printer it's going to go to. You could also save it as a PDF to come back to later. Now, I will say this. If you do not have a Silhouette machine, I am not encouraging to go out and buy one. If you're planning on making lots of these things and you don't want to do a bunch of cutting by hand, go for it. Go buy one. But I would suggest getting the portrait. It's the lesser of, it's the lesser expensive one. I have 2 cameos, but that is simply because when I started, I had a cameo. And I didn't want to have to buy 2 different types of mats and things of that nature. Now I have a Cameo 2. It is not the new one. I could not tell you how to work a new one. And I have, 2 machines. I have Ariel and I have Rapunzel. And Ariel can sometimes be a red-headed little gal who doesn't want to do anything right and cuts everything wrong. So Rapunzel's kind of my go-to for right now, but that switches all the time. So I will tell you, if you want to just print and cut by hand, I have a suggestion for you to make your cutting a tiny bit easier. I would go in to your lines here, and I would change your line color to maybe this lightest gray, and I'm going to increase the weight of that line by just enough so that it shows. Because what you're going to find is with that red cut line, it does not print that line. But if I'm going to cut this out by hand, I want it to print my line. So I have to go in. You could leave it red, but the gray is just a little more, it blends in a little bit more. So again, what I did was I selected my box, clicked on my lines, clicked on this. This is just my go-to gray. And then again, I clicked the line style window and changed the weight. And I mean, you just literally have to click up once or twice. I usually go to between 0.5 and 1.0. And that way, when I print this out, it's going to print that line. Now, in terms of printing out, you can print from Silhouette Studio, or you can create a PDF and print from that. I choose to usually create a PDF because my printer processes those as tiny, slightly bit faster. And especially if you're going to get into big files in Silhouette, it will sometimes crash your program if you're trying to print like a sticker file. So in order to make a PDF, I will click on print. I know that does not sound right, but I'm going to click on print and I'm going to go down here. And if you see, there's this little PDF drop box. I'm going to click save as PDF. Now you can literally just click save, but it's going to say something about, oh, well, it's got this ending. So I delete that. And I delete this ending, the file type, like that. And so I've got dashboard pocket size. So what will end up happening is I will have two files. One will be the PDF file and one will be the studio file. And I'm going to put this right where the other one is on my desktop so I can find it. And I'm going to click save. And it's going to take it a minute. It's going to say it's printing or processing. And that was pretty quick because it's not a very large file. I'm going to come over here and do the same thing. I'm going to change my line style. I'm going to come over here, click my go-to gray, click on line style, and I'm going to bring it up to about a 0.5. Then I'm going to click File, Print. Again, coming down here to the PDF box, save as PDF. And then I'm going to get rid of this stuff I don't need. Make sure I know where it's saving it to, because believe me, I've had to go on a hunt for my files because it saves it somewhere just random. Save. And now I've got this both processed as a PDF. So I've got to go back to my desktop. Here you're going to see, here's my PDF of my dashboard. Here's the PDF of my pockets. And so I could literally print these out and cut around them with scissors, which one of my planner galleys asked if I would create her one. And I said, absolutely, for sure. And so this is likely going to be hers. So Nicole, I hope you like it if you're watching this. And so I probably will just print these and cut them out by hand. I could take the time to go into Silhouette and do all of that. But for today, I want to make it so it's easy for anybody to do. Because up to this point, all I have done is downloaded. If I didn't have the machine and all of that, all I had to do was go onto their website and download the software that's already there. And I'm walking you through step by step. So put this on your phone, put this on your iPad, put this on the TV, whatever the case may be, pull out your computer and just start playing around with it. I'm going to come back with another video on another day to show you how to do the bookmarks that have the words at the top all cut out fancy schmancy. And so at this point, I think I'm pretty much done. We've created our dashboard, and we would print this. We'd also print this separately. I don't print them double-sided. And the reason why I don't is because these are not lined up in any way, shape, or form. And if I was to start trying to print double-sided, it's not going to line up correctly. Plus, I want this to be a separate flap. So I would print this out, cut it. Print these out, cut them. Then I'm going to take the pocket. I'll just tell you what would come next. This is the kind of, I would have to show you this part, but I think it's pretty easy to interpret. And I'm going to run like a tape runner down this side right here. And I actually put a piece of paper underneath because my tape runner is about 1/4 of an inch wide. And I only did just the tiniest little bit. So, I mean, this is a great indicator point right here. And I ran all the way to the edge. And then I did the same here. I ran all the way to the edge. And then I lined up this corner with the corner of my dashboard. Remember, since I started these pockets from the same file, it's already done for me. It's already going to line up great. And this is going to hit right about that gusset in the middle. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to run my tape runner along here and stick it on the left-hand side. Then what I did is you could be done at that point. If you want to. Now there's a couple of ways that you can make these a bit more durable. I chose to laminate mine. I'm a teacher, and so I have just a little Scotch laminator at home, and I buy the refills at Sam's or wherever it is, just a 3 mil laminator page. It's the 8.5 by 11. And I put it in there and ran it through my laminator once, let it cool, and then ran it through a second time. And I always let them cool flat so they don't develop kind of a wavy, bubbly shape to it. And then I took my X-Acto knife, or I actually used just the blade of some scissors, and I just lightly cut along this edge where I'm kind of tracing right now to separate that pocket. And what I found was easy was I would start here, and once I got a hole, enough of a hole that I could get kind of my scissors in there, I would use that as my guide so I knew I wasn't cutting through. On mine, I did actually take after the fact, and I took packing tape, like clear packing tape, and went and taped the area where the leftover laminate from the actual like pocket met with the part that wasn't laminated, so that just makes that a nice smooth transition. Packing tape is seriously your friend. Now, if you don't have a laminator, not all hope is lost. I was actually on one of the boards the other day, and somebody mentioned that they loved how using old clear book covers, like textbook cover, sticky textbook cover, works great on her dashboards. And I went and purchased a roll, and I love it. I use my laminator because it's a little bit quicker, and it's just, but it's a different strategy for not having to have all these tools. It's using what you have and figuring out. I mean, even if you had to go and get some packing tape and just packing tape the whole thing up, go for it. Just make it yours and love it, and embrace the crafty side of yourself. So I appreciate you watching today. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to comment below or send me a message on Facebook. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will be glad to help walk you through this. I really appreciate you watching today, and I want you to have a great day and a great week ahead. And you know what? If you like this video, please click that thumbs up. And you know what? Subscribe so you can see some of my other tutorials. Have a great day. Have a blessed day, and I will see you soon. Bye.